This quote is from the book Grunge is Dead. Quote,
"If you've ever loved an addict that relapses, you trust your love for them, but you never trust the power of that drug on their brain chemistry. You never trust the treatment center if they don't address relapse. I once asked a treatment center counselor on Family Day, what about relapse? What have patients been taught about it? And as a family, what should we do? The counselor looked at me and said, oh, our students never relapse. I knew that we had wasted our time and money. My heart just sank. I felt so horrible for Layne because here I was, his logical, practical, upfront mom who had asked the question that nobody wanted to ask. I felt as though with all the parents, loved ones, and families surrounding these young people, they would give us a number or a counselor we could call in case we were worried. I was so blind and naive. In a way, it was like the drug had a spokesperson right there in that room, and it was the counselor. It was sickening. When Layne went to Hazelden Treatment Center, had he stayed longer and been able to build long-term friendships and sponsors, I believe Layne would have had a chance. Kurt Cobain said it would take 3 years for him to have a solid new start, and I believe he was correct. But Layne became addicted to drugs when he was quite young, and he never really learned mature problem solving. He just didn't have the wisdom you get over a period of years. Some of the people around Layne were wonderful, sweet-hearted, and professional, and truly had his interests at heart. A young person who is drug addicted can't help bumping up against sleazy people in the entertainment industry. Not necessarily the professionals, but others down the line. You can't stay clean and sober without clean and sober people around you, without a bodyguard mentality. Layne would have had to have been superhuman. Nobody expected him to be that. It takes walking away for a long period of time with the support of the music industry, i.e., had he stayed at Hazelden. Layne told me, Mom, I have a contract to fulfill. There are over 40 people on the payroll, and they all count on me being out there. That's where he was coming from, that he had a responsibility to the contract and his people. We need a humane society for musicians. The murderous conditions of the partnership between the drug community and the entertainment industry, anyone that supports it at any level is part of every drug death. It starts with the guy at the top who's making how many millions of dollars importing it and getting it into the country. I'd like that guy to sit across knee to knee with Layne and explain to him his rationale. I would say that Layne's form of addiction was aggressive. If it was a cancer, you sure wouldn't say, well, you've got 2 more albums to complete. All these people are on your payroll. I use this analogy. Some people try recreational drugs and it acts as a single unbarred hook. It's in, it slips out, and they walk away. Some people try recreational drugs and they get hooked. It's a single hook with a barb. They're still able to slip free. Some people get hooked with a double barbed hook, and over time, it does tremendous damage. Some people get hooked with a triple barbed hook, and there is not flipping that thing free. And the longer it's in there, without some outside help to extricate it, the more inevitable and severe the damage is. That fish is going to die. Every disease is like that. Some people get cancer. They discover it early, the treatment works, and it's rather non-invasive. Depending on the degree of the cancer and the kind of cancer, sometimes it's treatable. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it goes into remission. Sometimes it spreads to other parts of the body. Drug addiction comes in all different degrees, and in Layne's case, it was a death grip. He needed to be cut loose from his financial responsibilities in order to get the help he required, and it needed to be mandated. Because of the way the laws are written, you can intervene with a meeting, but you can't make an addict get help. That law was written so that someone's estate can't be appropriated unless you can prove that they can't tend their business. It's almost impossible to probe because there are all degrees of sanity, and some of it borders on insanity. What kept us from helping Layne was the same law that protected his estate. Sadly, one is a human life being treated the same as accumulated goods. These cases need to be handled on an individual basis. We were not able to help our son. When you're using drugs, you're not an adult making adult decisions. The drug is thinking for you. Its fangs are a death grip. I didn't believe that I would be doing much good poking away at him. Layne, you got to do this and you got to do that. I was trying to stay really close in my thoughts and conversations with him. I didn't want Layne to ever feel ashamed. All of us know that there are miracles around recovery. In Alaska, I was attending 12-step meetings at an A1 and on for the family, friends, employers, employees, and concerned others of alcoholics and addicts. I was learning a lot. I probably read 200 books on the effects and studies of alcohol, addiction, and families. I was trying to discover the key. I wanted to be a voice for the one little phrase that might be the aha for Layne. If it wasn't me, I wanted somebody to find those magic words that would bring Layne back to himself. I never lost hope that I or someone would be able to do that. I educated myself about the disease so I could talk with Layne and understand. But a non-addict can never understand. They can only accept and believe that the addict is telling the truth. An addict and a non-addict don't think the same. Their brains are wired completely differently. Only an addict can help another addict through recovery. Layne's ex-girlfriend Demry, her mother and I take solace in knowing that our children experience great love from one another and that they are no longer suffering. In order for Layne to have lived, he should have been released from his contract with great love, acceptance, and respect. And yes, there was a contract, and yes, there was a commitment. But I don't think that a person has to... He didn't sign up to go to Iraq, for goodness sake. He signed up for fun and hard work, and he gave his heart and soul and life. At some point, it was real obvious that he couldn't go on, and that he needed freedom from the commitments. Maybe, after several years of true recovery, not just cleaning up, going back out, cleaning up, going back out, maybe the band could have done what the band is doing now, with Layne still at the helm. If you're in a situation where everything you do is under the microscope, everything about your life is being planned and managed by somebody else, and that life includes dealers putting free drugs in your pocket to keep you coming back, it's hell on earth. Then people watch and wait for you to die, because they're going to sell all that stuff they stole out of your storage unit. They're going to see to it that it gets to an auction house specializing in sports and rock memorabilia, where it gets sold. Then your parents are going to have to buy it back with your hard-earned money. It's very disgusting, that tangled web that they weave. Maybe a person that's involved in that whole web of destruction thinks it's a funny, challenging game. I'd like for that person to have to sit down and talk to my son. I think Layne knew he was dying, but he didn't plan on it. He had just gotten his driver's license renewed, and he was in the middle of arts projects. I really expected that Layne would survive this ordeal. Nobody should die like that. I wish the dealers could have seen what I saw, and truly, may they be punished. Lots of fans and family members try to reassure me. People try to find the right words to say, the right thing to console and make us feel better. It's kind, and it's the right thing to do. They say things like, now he's in heaven singing in God's choir. You still have his music to listen to, or he'll live on through his music and we'll always hear his voice. I would want young people to understand that you don't have to accomplish anything huge to be loved. If Layne had chosen any other career, I couldn't have loved him more. People say, well, you have your daughters to console you. I say, you don't understand. My daughters lost their brother. It's just as profound for them, but a different loss, and I have to be there for them. When you strip away all of that, what you have left is loving someone, and Layne knew that. He once wrote on an anniversary card to us, all we need is love. This should never have happened. Layne was sacrificed. No one should be sacrificed. We should all live long, happy lives. A goal for all of us is to try and make the world a better place. When all is said and done, and all the platitudes are stripped away, and all the condolences and the gifts and the cards and everyone shares their thoughts, my child has died. I think the most important thing to remember is that no human being should be seen or treated as a commodity. People should remember him in their own way. He's a human being first. He may have represented other things, but he is a real person who needed to live and wanted to live and should never, never have suffered this horrible death. How should Layne be remembered? He didn't want to be remembered as a drug addict. He wanted to be remembered for what he created and gave to the world. Sadly, the addiction took him too soon, or he would have been able to share more of himself with us. But for me, I feel as though I'm attached to Layne, and that he's with me at every minute. How I would want others to remember him, I can't say. But I do know how I remember him, and that is every moment.